All right, here we are. We're with my buddy, Guillaume, who is the Director of Sales and Marketing for all three Fairmont properties in Kenya. So I know this brand very intimately. I've visited them many times. I work with them a lot. I'm so deeply in love with the country of Kenya and these properties. And it's really funny, and I tell this story all the time, a lot in talks, that I've been there 3 times. My itinerary is exactly the same every single time I go there, and every single time it's a different trip. Just because, you know, nature doesn't follow an itinerary, and weather doesn't follow an itinerary, and it's one of my favorite places in the world to go. So Guillaume, welcome. And of course, we always have Siebes in the studio backing me up.
Thank you so much, Scott. It's great to see you. It's been a while since you come visit. It's been a year, actually.
It's been way too long. It's been way too long. And we're going to rectify that as soon as the borders open up. Tell me what's going on. First off, let's talk about a country as a whole. How is Kenya? How is their response in the beginning? How's it going now? Like, what's the daily life going there? First off, how long have you lived there?
So first of all, I've been in Kenya now for 4 years. I've been in Africa for 9 years. So I'm a quote unquote an African specialist after a while. But I think there's so much to learn about the continent. It's so great to be in this continent. I've been in Zambia, now Kenya, and I'm enjoying every minute. But to go back to your question about how we're doing in Kenya, I think, you know, we're doing quite well, actually. We had our first case about 6 weeks ago. And the country took initiative right away to start the quarantine almost a week after. So the cases didn't grow so much. We had 300 and change right now. 1 death recorded, but very, very mild in our end. And I think, you know, it's all about the response. All the citizens have been very responsive as well. And I think, you know, it make a big change compared to, unfortunately, my home country in France, where, you know, more cases grow very, very fast.
Yeah, it's, you know, the crazy thing about this is this pandemic, it doesn't recognize borders. So everybody on the planet is going through the same thing. And that's the great equalizer in this pandemic. You know, it's funny, but, and sometimes people get upset at me because I'm always talking about the opportunities and take advantage of things and this and that. And yes, there's tragedies. Yes, there's mental health issues. Yes, people are losing not only their lives, but they're losing their businesses, and many of them will never open again. And there's all sorts of red statements, I like to call them. But on the opposite side, the crisis, pandemics, you know, huge turmoils in the global economic wave, that's when opportunities arise. You know, I mean, you guys, it's really funny because, you know, everything in my life is involving digital marketing and social media, and it happens to be the most important thing in my life. And I'm getting calls now from a lot of brands and a lot of companies that I talked with in the past, tried to convince them to do more social media, tried to convince them to hire a full-time person, tried to convince them to do a lot of things. And now they're calling me, they're like, wow, I wish I would have listened. I would have somebody to talk to now. Because
I think you're completely right, Scott. I mean, you know, the world has changed overnight. And I think, you know, we're more and more in a digital world than we never used to be.
Right.
I mean, you know, like I was a big fan of traditional PR, traditional marketing as we knew it, you know. It was all about being in the right magazine and so forth. And I think, you know, that pandemic actually opened the door to full digital. And I think it will even open the door to AI in the very near future, even for our industry. I think, you know, we need to embrace it. We should not look at it in a negative way whatsoever, but we need to use that pandemic to learn the best we can. And when we see how many webinars are going on, how many Zooms are going on now, I think actually our feeder market is becoming closer in a weird way. Instead of doing sales calls every quarter to the US. I can do a webinar every day. And I think, it's just adapting, seeing what is best for us now and adapting it and use it when everybody, quote unquote, come back to normal.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. So going on that, you have 3 properties there and they're very, very different. You have one in Nairobi, one in Mount Kenya, and one in the Masai Mara. How was your strategy, the more than your strategy, how is the psychology of your strategy before this has happened? And then moving forward, like what are you, because I'm sure you're already, and I work heavily with the PR agency that reps you guys, and how are you working with Spotlight and how are you working with your teams right now on the recovery coming back? What are you going to be doing different?
Very simple. I think, we will always use a traditional PR agency like we do with Spotlight, because at the end of the day, everybody will still do some traditional way of looking at and so forth. However, right now, what we're looking at with the team is full development on the digital side of it. To be sure that we are on all social media ready on content point of view. I mean, nowadays people think social media is only Instagram or LinkedIn and so forth. No, it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're working on our YouTube channel right now in order to ensure we have the content right. We need to do TikTok, which is becoming a huge one as well on the platform point of view. So yeah, we're reanalyzing all our digital platforms and ensure we're ready when we reopen properly. I mean, right now people are looking for content more than ever, and meaningful content. And I think, it's our duty to give that to people to still make them dream. And lucky enough, we have plenty of dream to bring from Kenya. I mean, between the 3 properties, if I bring you 1 dream a day, I need to do something else in my life.
And when it comes to the content you're building out and kind of the strategies behind it, what kind of thought process is going into maybe even letting people know how you guys are reacting to the situation, or how moving forward, new safety measures, or is it still too soon for that and you're just focusing on content, or is that kind of all in the works and you're working on the plan for it?
There's 2 ways. There is, I think, the need of content that is obviously need to be there. However, we're preparing as well on our messaging to our people, to our, not just our clients, but our internal clients as well. And I think, we will need to do things in a different way. We will need to be prepared to answer to our clients in a different way that we've never been before. Maybe going back actually to traditional hospitality. I mean, I read a couple of articles, very interesting, that actually it's a great opportunity for traditional hospitality to come back, when we had time for our people a lot more, for our clients and so forth. So, we're preparing that content, but as well we're preparing content specific on which measure are we doing and what are we looking for when we reopen fully.
Cool. What's great about you guys, and you guys have such an advantage over a lot of the brands in the world coming out of this, is that your content is just like your average picture is better than the best photographers in the world, because you have access to just things that people dream about. I mean, that whole Africa dream is it's your front yard.
I think, for me, the key element will be as well the meaningful content. 1 second.
Dude, I love the kids in the background. I think that's great.
I swear, I could kill them 500 times a day. Anyway, we're recording. I will not kill my kids. What I want to say is, I think, our content, as you say, one picture can mean so many things, especially coming from our part of the world. And I think it's what people are looking for, still dreaming. And I think, the next step, what people will look for is deep trips. I mean, we always talk about the bucket list, but we never do the bucket list. Doing a traditional and authentic safari experience will become something that people want to do. And I think, people want to go back to nature a lot more. I see that a lot right now in different content that I'm reading is they are craving to go back to nature. They're craving to see animals. That's what the pandemic did to people, stay home and not seeing friends and so forth. They want to get back to nature, to breathe. And I think that we can bring no problem to them. I see a lot of opportunities as well on the fact that right now, in order to make them dream or think about what could be the next step when everything open, it's as well, what do you call, a webcam in our conservancies. I think it's something that we're putting together right now, but live streaming live from our conservancy would be something I want to put together very soon, actually.
Yeah, I mean, so I watch the live webcams from all the different places in South Africa all the time. It's tremendous. It's like they just put a lot of times they put the camera on the Jeep and they go out just like we used to go out, but with a camera and the guide just talking like he has somebody in the back, but he's talking to the audience. And let me tell you, man, if there's one way to hook a new customer, because it's so real, it's raw. There's no editing, there's no Photoshop. It's so real. Another thing that
I think it's a good way to still bring the dream to people. Right? For me, what I see right now is everybody's on social media right now, looking, reading on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, getting for content. Yeah. I still see some property, unfortunately, trying to push for sale. I mean, no, it's not the time. People dream, make people look at beautiful sundown in the savannah or a balloon safari coming up in the early morning, things like this. We'll talk a lot more to people right now than anything else.
Absolutely. As a function of the crisis, its research has showed that consumers will start to only interact with brands which they share similar values. So there's a lot of research showing that consumers will only want to interact with brands with purpose. So I believe that the mindset will quickly shift to include trust and humility as well. So I think that when people start to travel moving forward, they're going to remember what brands were doing during the pandemic. That's why I think that a lot of these brands, like I'm looking online and they haven't posted all of March or April. And it's such a missed opportunity. And yeah, you can complain, well, I had to lay off my whole marketing team. I had to do this and I had to do that. There's a million excuses all the time. But, it's just a missed opportunity. And brands are going to look back and they're going to be like, oh my God, what did I do? I was sitting on my hands for 2 months. Obviously they're busy. They're doing more important things. They're doing very, very important things to keep the company going. But it's crazy.
It's two ways to see it. I mean, for me, you are your own influencer as well, I must say. I mean, you have your own accounts. Make people dream with your account. I think, it's people don't realize the micro influencers that they can be. People, at the end of the day, buy from people. So if you make them dream during the difficult time, they will say, "Oh, let me think of this," Yeah. And I think you made a very good point on the sense that I think the ethics will come very strongly, and what is it for human nature in general after this. So this isn't for me, I'm very glad that our two conservancies are still working fully. The one in Mount Kenya, protecting, the mountain bongos, and as well the one in the Mara with the two remaining white rhino, 7 white rhinos in the region. And I'm very glad that we're still doing that and we're 200% behind it. When I see what happened 3 days ago, 4 days ago in Congo, when unfortunate poaching attack on 18 soldiers protecting animals, it's horrible. I think, we have our duty to still work on some key elements. And I think, conservancy and wildlife for our part of the world is fundamental.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It has to be at the foremost, at the, front of mind all the time.
And I think, at the end of the day, people care deeply about wildlife. I do believe everyone has one story concerning one animal, no matter what type of animal it is. And I think, what we saw with pandemic is again a story towards protecting wildlife from the beginning. And I think I'm very glad to see so many people coming up and saying, we need to keep our work towards conservancy work. We need to keep our donation going and so forth. And I think this is fundamental.
Yeah.